Super Gimmicks. And you might go, Paul, what are you on about? Well,
yeah. What are you on about?
And you can probably guess, even though you can't see him, you've just heard him. I'm being joined by Ashwin. How are you doing, sir?
Hi, I'm good. I'm good. Brilliant.
Now, we obviously have done quite a few videos together recently, and in every single one of them, you seem to be wearing that jersey. Don't you? You're wearing the same. Have you washed it?
Point. Wash it. You don't wash jerseys. What planet are you on?
See,
Mind you, this is a legitimate jersey, so I could wash it. However, as people that will learn by mistake, these sorts of things in the wash, or these ones, these are not too bad, but they can come off. So you don't want to wash them.
you don't want to wash
And then
them.
All Black jerseys, when you buy them from AliExpress, you definitely don't want to wash those.
Just give them a quick spray and hang them out in the
Hang it
sunshine.
out. Hang it out.
Give it a bit of an airing. It'll be good.
Let it roll around in the bedroom for a week or so and then hang it up.
Oh dear. So this is why we do remote shows. Because
Yeah, he caught a whiff of me on Saturday night.
and so thank you for joining us. Hi, if you're new, and then please do hit the subscribe on YouTube. Subscribe on the old podcast. Like the page on Facebook, and obviously follow on Twitter and all of that kind of lovely jubbly stuff. And also, if you actually like to see me sat on the sofa more with Ashwin, then become a Patreon. Link down below on YouTube, link above in the titles on Facebook and Twitter. Because if I can go full time with this, then I can sort of move into the house next door to Ashwin, and then we can just sit in his sofa and do all the shows together on a regular basis.
That.
Hello, everyone who's joining on the live chat. Thank you very much for joining us. So, yes, the title this week, does Super Rugby need Super Gimmicks? But before we get into that, the reason you're still wearing that jersey is because, hey, you've not come down yet. It was a good weekend of Mitre 10, so we'll just quickly brush over that. Congratulations to Auckland and Waikato. So Waikato promoted on the first time of trying back from the Championship into the Premiership. They're the first team to do that. No one else has done that before. Congratulations to Auckland for beating Canterbury in the final, and that's now 12 home. Is it 12? 11 or 12 home victories in the final. So that went to a full 100 minutes. We had 20 minutes of extra time. So if you've not seen it, go back and watch it. It is a bit of a thriller. But the season's gone. It's all over. Let's look forward to next year already. Do you think that sort of that 20,000 crowd means anything for Auckland for next year?
It's given them a sight of what could be achieved. It depends what they learn from it. I mean, I can't remember if it's us they had a discussion, or I definitely had a discussion with somebody. Because what you can learn from that is the fact is that just make the games free to go through, and people will then turn up and make your money off the food and drink.
Well, yes, I can't see them doing that, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying, right? It's just like it'll be interesting to see what they learn out of that. They must have said, they've got to see sort of hang on, there's got to be something in that. Even if they don't go fully free, it's just like very cheap tickets. I don't know, but there's definitely something in what they did on Saturday. They got 20,000 people there. As they said, it was more vocal crowd than normal as well. There's definitely something to learn out of that exercise for the management team. As I said, we talked. They possibly could have got somewhere around 10 to 12,000 people there. They would have bought their tickets. Generally, you buy your tickets, you go in there and say, "I've just spent $40 on tickets or more," and you'll go, "Ooh, I'm not buying any food." Whereas a lot of people I've spoken to it turned up on Saturday and go, "Oh, we haven't paid for tickets. Oh, hey kids, do you want some chips?" Because normally you wait for the kids to ask for chips. You never offer the chips to the kids.
So yes, to be honest, I think there needs to be that. Whilst it was a very good day, and it's been a very good season. It's been an absolute privilege for me to go to all that, to visit 8 provinces and go to like 19 games, whatever it was. So I reckon actually I've probably been to more provinces than even the players, because even the play, if you think about the players, you play 6 games in your division, so that's 3 away. That's 4. That's basically 1 home place and 3 away places. That's 4, and you play 4 cross games home and away. So that again, you play two away there. So basically they go to 6. Most players have been to just 6 provinces this year. Canterbury, which obviously went away in the Canterbury, North Harbour, and Wellington, who went away to games that they played at home in the regular season. They will have been to 7 provinces, but yeah. So I went to 8, which makes me apart from probably paid people with Scott from Sky, I think I was probably the next in line for the most provinces visited by anybody. So that was maybe some of the match officials as well, to be fair to them, but everyone else, yeah. So that was great. So I do think this will still fade from the memory pretty quick, and I don't think we'll get. I think they'll need to do a lot of things. Need to do things differently if they want things to change and improve. But we'll see. There are definitely lessons to be learnt, as you say.
Lessons to be learnt. Actually, it's unfortunate for Auckland, and we talked about this actually off air. How there really still isn't that connection between the Blues and Auckland. But unfortunately for Auckland, the fact is that the success of the Blues will have an impact on whether Auckland gets a crowd early on, because there'll be a flow-on good feel-good factor that will flow from the Blues through to Mitre Cup, which will help Auckland for people through the game.
Absolutely, and good for the game says it was a final mind. Wonder what difference free entry would make to regular season games. It would not take it from the average of about 6,000 up to 20,000, clearly, but it could make it. It could get somewhere in between, maybe around the 10,000 mark. But we'll have to wait and see how.
I'm sort of thinking they could get. You'd wanting to get if you're doing it free regular season, you'd want to be getting 10 in every game, and for something like a big game again, like if you had a round robin clash against Canterbury
or Battle of the Bridge,
then you want to get 15 to a game like that. And then on the back of all that is also, again with the finals, obviously we're blue sky mining and crystal ball gazing, but you have another final at Eden Park, then you're looking at getting 25,000-30,000 under a free gate entry. You want to look at how you can build those numbers. You don't just want to say, "Oh, sweet, we opened the gates and got 20,000 people." You want to look at if you keep it free and how you can build those numbers.
Absolutely. So, I think how the media cover it all and stuff. So, I will be tomorrow, hopefully, but definitely in the next couple of days, doing a review of all the provinces I went to, so you can get to understand how they're different behind the scenes. I'll be doing a video about that. So tomorrow is Super Rugby squad announcement day.
Whoop 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 whoop.
Right. Yes. Okay. So I can tell you're not really that pumped, are you? Let's be honest. Is it? These are kind of the gimmicks. Are they just trying to copy football or soccer, where they have deadline day, where they can actually sign? It's the last day they can sign people. Do you think it's a good idea, or do you think it's just a bit of whatever?
It's a bit of whatever, because the squad's well and truly completed before tomorrow.
It is. So
I mean, when we can get the rumours out about, actually the rumour is, which pretty much 100% correct, this player's going to be playing here and this player. And in fact, one of the players a couple of weeks ago actually said to, one of our acquaintances, I'm going to be playing at this X location. So, and it's not even an announced thing. So there's going to be basically bugger all surprises in the announcements of the teams.
Oh, well, okay. I think for the average man in the street, there will be some surprises. I say I'm in a lot of media rooms around the country, so I've heard a whole bunch of different rumours from different places. You obviously know various people who are in the Nell, whatever. You also, after every game, you pop down and you have a quick chat with players, and things like that. So, and a couple of ones that I think that jump out to me is the Canadian for Auckland, for example. I've gone blank to his name now.
Even Olmsted.
Yep. I think seeing that we've already got Gerard Cowley Tuatoti, Scrafton, Tuapolotu, and Tupu all already confirmed for the Blues. It's looking sort of doubtful that they're going to be able to find a space for him, even though he's come over for that. Whilst players like Dalton Papali'i haven't actually been announced or confirmed, you're expecting those sort of players to come in into the Blues and be confirmed. I would be very surprised if players like Ruru and Knock aren't confirmed, and also Stephen Perifetta, who also and TJ Fiani, who all currently are not confirmed. And
Perifetta, Terry Black.
Yeah, Terry Black and Harry Plummer are already confirmed.
Oh, okay.
Looking at the list I've got here, but players like TJ Fiani, Caleb Clark aren't, and they will be in there. So I can't really see where there's any space for any particular shocks in the Blues roster.
No, I mean, like Christian's just asked in the chat room on YouTube around Severis. He, at this point, I think he will pick, if the best he will get is a wider training contract, because from my understanding and the calculations is that all the wing allocations are done within the squad. So that's the issue that Severis has got.
Yep. If we look at the Chiefs, they've already got obviously Allardyce and Retallick there. Hoetia hasn't been confirmed yet, but you think he would be now. He's back playing down in Taranaki, I think. There might be. They've got Tyon Falcon and Damon McKenzie, but apparently Marcy McKenzie isn't going to be there next year. Rumour has it that Ione might be the guy that's going to fill that gap, which I think most people would think of Ione and Fletcher Smith both being with the Highlanders, but actually they're both out of contract there. And you'd have thought Fletcher Smith would be the first choice, being at Waikato, but my understanding that's not going to happen. There's definitely some space in their centres. With Charlie Nartai leaving, so there's space there.
They'll sign up that Quinn Tupai
from
the Waikato squad, the 19-year-old.
Yep. Yes, actually, yes. He should be in there, shouldn't he?
Yep.
And there's quite a few unconfirmed around the in their backs as well. But you'd think people like Sean Stevenson would definitely get confirmed. But with Pulu going to the Brumbies, with Nano Williams off to Clermont, even though Nano Williams didn't play last year because of injuries, there's space in there for a couple of players.
See, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? The stuff that we've been hearing is the fact that there's no space for Severis, but we just mentioned Pulu and what was the other one you mentioned? Nano Williams, and the back three off to other pastures. So it's a case of surely there's got to be a slot for him, but that's what we're hearing, is that there's no space for him. But we'll find out.
We will find out. I mean, one of the problems with Severis is that he's Fiji eligible, not New Zealand eligible, so he counts as a foreign player.
Right.
Obviously, Michael Allardyce is already in there. I'm not sure the other players, if there's any other players in there who are also foreign eligible. But again, you'd think with Nano Williams being Samoan, you'd think that would free up a slot. But anyway, we have to wait and see on that one. Going over to looking at the Crusaders, you'd think again there's the potential there for a third choice fly half in there with alongside Hunter Moanga, but you'd think Brett Cameron would be the person that would get that would get that slot, with Mike Delaney obviously dropping out. And with Seta Tamanavalu moving off to France, as clearly as you'd expect again, there to be some space in there for another centre as well. So we'll see what happens in that space. Also in the locks, Luke Romano hasn't been confirmed, but you'd expect he would be. So that's and Quinton Strange hasn't been confirmed either. But you can't see them not getting re-signed up, can you?
Absolutely. it's yeah. As you said, there's a lot of names that haven't been locked in, but are locked in.
Yeah. Looking at going down to the Highlanders, again, not many names locked in, but you expect the pack to stay fairly similar. Only Guy Miller's left off to Biarritz. The place that we are probably going to see some movement, though, is in that fly half one. Obviously, Sopwanga's gone. We hear that Ione and Smith are both out of contract.
And off somewhere else.
And off somewhere else. Bryn Gatland's come in. So there's room there for players. Aside from that, though, again...
Sorry, back the track up there. We've got Bryn Gatland. Who's their other first five?
So last season, they had Sopwanga, Smith, and Ione. All three of whom
are gone.
We think are gone.
Which means that they've only got one first five?
They've only got one first five. I can't see how Fletcher Smith isn't going back there, personally.
But where are we here? But I've forgotten. I can't remember whether you or somebody else told me that where he was actually heading off to. Whether he's staying at the Chiefs?
No, he's not staying. He's not going to the Chiefs. So I thought he was heading to the Hurricanes.
Okay.
They've got Barrett, Garden Bashop, and James Marshall coming in. James Marshall from London Irish, replacing Ihio West, who went off to La Rochelle. So I can't see how they got space. So to me, I think Fletcher Smith's got to be going back down to the Highlanders.
That's an interesting one with James Marshall because he was, he'd be someone that had been around for a long time. And the season before he left, he was actually on fire. He played some really good rugby, in particular for Taranaki. So that could actually be quite a good pickup for them if there's any injuries with Bowden Barrett. And James Marshall, they also used to play at fullback as well.
Stephen Harris says Jack Debrasini has signed a 1-year deal with the Chiefs, and that Fletcher Smith is going to the Canes. I'm hearing he's going to the Canes. I just don't see how he fits in at the Canes when they've already got Barrett, Garden Bashop, and James Marshall. I don't understand how Fletcher Smith fits in there, but that's where everyone says he's going. So,
just with what Steve just said in the old chat room, interesting thing though, isn't it? We're normally used to the merry-go-round within the New Zealand Super Rugby franchises. The Jack Debrasini one is a merry-go-round, including an Australian one, because they've signed up Quade Cooper. The Rebels have, sorry.
Yep.
And so obviously Jack Debrasini was their number one first five, who's now obviously decided, I'll head over to the Chiefs.
He was number one during the first half of the year.
Yep.
So, but he wasn't. Chris, I didn't know that Fletcher Smith was under contract at the Highlanders. He was last year, but not this year. But he fell out of favour about halfway through the season, and they were putting Hodge in there instead, who is not a fly half. So Debrasini really fell out of favour. Rebels.
Yep.
Has had a good season up at Northland. But Hayden Parker was the one that some people were talking about coming back, but it looks like he's staying at Sunwolves.
Well, I would have imagined that the Sunwolves would have sewn him up for a couple of years at least when they signed him, because Hayden Parker's a good player, no doubt about it. It was quite a surprise to me that he actually ended up at the Sunwolves in the first place. The Highlanders let him go, so.
Well, yeah, we've had a few players leave. I mean, Marty Banks is pretty decent. He's also gone.
Yep.
And whilst he's someone who looked older than he really was, I always thought Marty Banks was kind of contemporary and same kind of age as Beaver. I don't know why, but he's nowhere near. I mean,
he has got a very mature appearance to him.
Yes,
I think in these PC days, that's quite okay to say.
So yes, I agree. Everyone tells us that Fletcher Smith is going to Hurricanes. I just don't see how he fits in there. They look already full.
Well, the only thing is that if they see James Marshall as being their fullback cover, not as a first five cover.
They've got Geordie Barrett and Namal Scudder there. Admittedly, that Julian Severe's gone, so Scudder may play more on the bench, more on the wing.
On the wing.
So we'll have to see about that. And the one area that they perhaps have some question marks or space is in the back. So Brad Shields and Blade Thompson have both gone across to the UK.
Back row.
So they've got Evans, Fafita, Sam Henwood, Karifi from Wellington has come in. Obviously Prinsep and Ardi Surveyor. Now Ardi Surveyor is going to he's going to be part of the All Blacks kind of resting, please. I guess that might be it. Is a World Cup year. Bowden Barrett is going to be asked to sit out a lot of Super Rugby, so I guess that makes space for Smith.
Yep. So, what about the front row for the Hurricanes? Because one of the areas that the Hurricanes obviously have done very well in the last couple of seasons, but every season, and it's even with the Wellington team this year as well, is the fact is that their tight five always seems to be a bit, I want to say flaky. They're not quite flaky, but they're not the powerhouse.
A bit underweight.
Could provide a consistent platform for their backs.
Yeah, so Fraser Armstrong, Alex Fido, Toby Smith are all confirmed. So players that Chris Eves, Ben May, Tuangama.
Oh, now you got me going. Jeff Tuangama Allen. I want to say Mellon.
Are the guys that we'll see whether they get confirmed tomorrow. Most of them I expect to be.
And then they have to look for locks because Fatty Alofa's gone.
Well, and there's room in the locks for them as well. So I mean that's somewhere that's to go. Yeah, but so Juan Solo is asking who is the Highlanders' number 2 fly half. That is a very good question. That's where there is space, and that's one of the interesting places to listen to tomorrow. Is Highlanders fly halves. There's going to be some interest around locks in the Hurricanes and potentially back row. There's a space for someone who can be of interest. The Crusade. So we're expecting a lot of basically reconfirmations of the Highlanders pack, but there is space there for potential surprises. But I don't think we'll see them. I don't think there's much. We're expecting much of a surprise in the Highlanders. There's a bit of space again to replace Tamanivalu, but Samu has been replaced by Douglas, and so that's there. So it looks like there's space out wide for the Chiefs, but for some reason we're hearing there isn't. So it's going to be interesting to see who comes in there. Currently confirmed is Solomon Alamano, Sean Wainui, and then in the centres, Anton Leonard Brown and Alex Nakavelli. Now, obviously, he'd expect Sean Stevenson, Tony, to be in there. But yeah, there's definitely it looks on paper to be space, but we'll have to see what happens. And then, as we said the Blues look pretty full.
Hard to believe.
So yes, that's our quick. That's where we think there could be some surprises and some interest to pay attention to tomorrow. So did you see what JK has been suggesting for the new Super Rugby structure? And again, we're talking gimmicks here.
Yeah. Well, I do see the announcement, but it's interestingly enough, we spoke about this, I can't remember how long ago, a very similar concept to what he's saying. And obviously everybody, the first thing everybody goes, oh, there's no money in it. It's just like, it's like no different to any new product. Is the fact is that you need to make a good business case for it, take it out to market. And then if your structure and your presentation's good enough, the money comes in. That's it. Is there somebody willing to pay for the product that you've created? And now, when I say that willing to pay for it, I'm not talking about the punter walking in through the gates. I'm talking about the Amazons of the world that are going to pay you big amounts of money for the broadcast rights for the competition that you've just created.
Just before we move on, can we see Perifetta playing fullback if Terry Black holds down the 10 jersey? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, he's done it for Taranaki as well, so I think I can see him. In particular, if you have him on the Perifetta on the bench, then obviously he covers your fullback and your first 5 option. Or if you're starting him at 15, then you can obviously bring him into first 5 if you need to as well from the back. So that is the option. It's a case of how they look at it, because they did use Michael Collins at number 15 quite a bit, simply because of the fact that they felt his assurity and the right decisions being made at the back, and also defensively he was pretty good. Perifetta, I've noticed that the Naki has occasionally been hiding him at fullback in defensive patterns.
I'd expect Perifetta to come off the bench and predominantly, but to be part of the kind of rotation that can cover 15. I don't think he'd be first choice 15. Juan Solo says, I thought Perifetta was the next golden boy of New Zealand rugby. No, I don't think so. He is someone who has potential, like a number of other young players. Talking about Ione, talking about Fletcher Smith, talking about Falcon. Perifetta's in that kind of crowd of players that could come through and play and be a good player, but it's a could. He's not an anointed golden boy who is expected to definitely come through.
Yeah, just sort of in terms of the last bit of Steve's comment in terms of he's the 15. He's incumbent. Michael Collins, the incumbent 15. I think the only thing is that he's a good, solid player at the back. He doesn't make mistakes generally. Everybody makes mistakes, but he takes good options. But he doesn't bring a lot of creativity from the back. That would be the thing. So if they were looking for something a bit more explosive from the back, then you would basically be looking to you'd be looking at your options and who you could put back there.
Alex says, how the Blues play both Sonny Bill Williams and Nonu? Pretty simple, 12 and 13, like they did in the Rugby World Cup final.
Bingo.
Sonny Bill will be 12, and Nonu can play either 12 or 13.
Yep.
But I'm not excited by Nonu's signing personally. His Super Rugby history isn't great. He's absolutely fantastic and wonderful All Black. Don't get me wrong. Great 12. Just doesn't seem to kind of care about Super Rugby enough at times.
No, he's never had a stellar. You couldn't say he's had stellar Super Rugby seasons. Anybody name a stellar Super Rugby season he's had? I don't know if you can.
So yeah, I'm not convinced he'll even start. I think he might kind of maybe one of these kind of one of the leaders during training, but we'll see.
Yep.
Stephen Harris, watch Collins closely for Otago, just a lack of top-end pace. Yep, agreed. And I think the reason we have that he did get that position, not Nanai, was making too many mistakes.
Yep. But then I did start at 15.
Yep.
Christian Harry Plummer will get his chances, but he's still young, first 5.
Yep, absolutely.
They'll give him a few there'll be a few games during the season that he'll probably be on the bench, and they'll play him off the bench, something like that. Obviously, unless injuries come along.
But he's very much third choice.
Yep.
So moving on to JK's one. So basically, his idea is that we actually do away with Super Rugby franchises, play provincial rugby, and then have a European Champions Cup, kind of for the top teams to play. And therefore you have your Super Rugby players, you have your All Blacks playing provincial rugby. Now, my first comment is if you're trying to copy the European system, where they play 30 games a season as a minute around, and they have a 5-week break, that's not a good place to go, and that's not the place to go that the player welfare idea that, oh, well, we're cutting out the travel to South Africa apart from that piece, therefore we get better player welfare. Sorry, no, you lose player welfare because you're going to get the players playing more games. So copying the European system is not the way forward for New Zealand. What has worked so well for New Zealand is the fact that the players play about 10 games a season less than Europe does. Hansen has come out and said he wants he thinks there should be a 16-week break in the season. Now, currently the All Blacks get a 12-week break, and I'll be honest, I think that's enough. I think 16 is getting a tad excessive.
I nearly fell off the sofa when I heard that. I think it was yesterday, was it, that I heard it? And it was just like, well, you guys just scheduled another game against Japan. So you're in control of that extra game and you decided to have it. But you're saying, oh, we should be having less games.
So
hang on, make up your mind as New Zealand Rugby, because he really is part of that. He'd have a fair input, I'd say, into the top management at the NZRFU. And so if he'd sort of turned around and said to them, no, we're not having another game against Japan, I'm pretty sure he would have been listened to.
He would. Now, one of the things we'll be talking about tomorrow is or have I got in for tonight, is the number of subs that different teams use. And as I say, we'll talk about that tomorrow. But one of the things it has in there is that basically let me find the tweet. Basically, the All Blacks play more Test rugby than any other international team. So, number of tests since 2016, New Zealand have played 38. Australia have played 39. England have played 31. Scotland 29. The All Blacks have played 9 more Test matches since 2016 than Scotland, Italy, or France. So New Zealand play more Test matches than they're at the top end, along with Australia. So yeah, this idea of this idea of trying to get All Blacks to play in provincial rugby when New Zealand have already been talking about playing more Test matches in 2020 onwards because they need the cash, and they basically said that they are going to be from a cash point of view, the deficit they're running is going to be unsustainable post Rugby World Cup, depending on the new TV deal. But let's be honest, no one's expecting this new TV deal to be suddenly twice the amount it is now for Super Rugby, etc. So it seems crazy that they're trying to suggest that they want to have more time off, but they're trying to counter at the same time.
More tests.
And then you've got people going, oh, this is such a great idea that JK's come up with, suggesting that the All Blacks play provincial rugby. And it's like, that's never going to happen in a million years. And when the guy who wrote the article puts on Twitter, don't come back to me with about the nuances and details, this is high level thinking. And it's kind of like, okay, but the point is, you're trying to get the All Blacks to play 30 games a year. It ain't going to work. So, I think he's in the wrong place. The way that it's structured now is good for players and good for producing players. What they need to do is figure out the finances as to how they get the finance working with this structure, rather than trying to come up with a new structure. To be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't. I'd still go back to the concept that I had in my head. I wasn't about bringing all the All Blacks into it, but they would still be involved. It's just the capacity would be reduced. But you just hear with the true rugby fan out there that they really enjoy provincial rugby more than the Super Rugby competition. Always have. I'm in that camp. It's just the fact that when I hear the fact that you can't run a competition, you won't get the money, you won't get the sponsors and that. Again, to me, it's how you package it and how you go out there and sell it to those people. If you get the money, if you can sell it well, you can get the money. If you can get the money, then you can have the high profile players. You can play the players so you can get the better players in the competition. As soon as you got the better players in the competition, you got a great competition, and you got a good product. So
That's true.
it comes.
Talking about products, there is no better product in the world than The Rock, Mr. Dwayne Johnson himself.
Oh, I thought you were talking about the radio station.
Can The Rock save Pacific Island rugby? This is one from actually a couple of weeks ago, but since we were talking about gimmicks, this was as gimmicky as it gets.
Yeah, look, I mean, he loves rugby, I think he even played it when he was younger, I think. I don't know. You hear all sorts of things. Yeah. He's such a well-known figure. He can pull everybody together and, create a Super Rugby squad out of the Pacific Islands. And he can throw, he's probably he's got a little bit of money behind him, I think. He probably had to throw some money at it as well.
Apparently he's the best paid actor in Hollywood. He gets paid more than Tom Cruise.
There you go. And I can understand that. He's so much better than Tom Cruise. We'll call it the Pacific Rock Islanders.
Oh dear. It's fast because there's this idea that just by him throwing his name behind something, it'll suddenly work. No, it would only work with a lot of hard work and effort, which, let's be honest, he does not have. He has a very full schedule of filming and TV and other stuff, which is why he's so successful. It's because he's a hard worker and he's very good at what he does. The only reason I mentioned Tom Cruise is the fact that Tom Cruise is about as A-list as you can get. So yes, he is. Could he? Yes, he could make it work, and he could actually bankroll it if he wanted to. But the thing is, he doesn't want to.
Here's the thing, right? I mean, obviously moving away from the gimmick, it's a great way to get into it. But there's a team on the rise in the Australasia environment that couple of more years, and that's the team you would throw into a Super Rugby competition. It's the Drua, if I've said that right. And they've got a structure that's being created. They've got a player base that's being created. So, there's a ready-made team, and you're not having to manufacture them like the Sunwolves were manufactured. You've got a ready-made team that is getting a base created, and then they can get to not quite the right word, but a critical mass type scenario that says, yes, now we've got a space for a team, or we want a Pacific Island team. Fiji Drua come on in. They're going to get a little bit more extra cash because they're coming into Super Rugby. They can go and buy a couple of more key players that they'll need to strengthen that squad up. And yeah, sure, they might struggle for the first couple of years, but they've got a base to start from rather than just starting from scratch, which is obviously, as we've seen with the Dahaguari sort of, the Sunwolves, the Kings, the Cheetahs. It's difficult to do when you're starting totally from scratch.
And to be fair, I mean, the Kings and the Cheetahs both started from Curry Cup teams, just not very good Curry Cup teams. And the
fact that they've been raped and pillaged of the good players by the existing Super Rugby sides.
Yeah, I mean the Bulls used to take the players from the Cheetahs all the time. So yes, but it is. I wouldn't necessarily say put the Fiji Drua into Super Rugby, as has been suggested. I'd keep the Fiji Drua in the NRC, but I'd use them as a feeder team for it. And as you say, they're building the financial connections. They're building up the back office. Is it a big enough back office? No, but it's a starting point. Whereas the Sunwolves, going from zero to try it's a hero was never going to work, and they really needed to have a longer time.
Feeder team for who though? Feeder team for who?
Well, a new team called the Fiji whatever, with the same backroom staff, with the same team, the same players. I would just change the name.
Oh, yeah, sure. Okay. No, but yeah, absolutely. No, look, I mean, the logical thing for them to do would be to say, okay, let's call them the Super Rugby Drua. They'll use a lot of that base of players from the NRC Drua team, but maintain that team in the NRC so that you can keep your wider training group, as we call it in New Zealand Super Rugby teams, playing in the competition. And even some of the non-international teams from players from the Super Rugby Drua team can go back into that NRC team outside of Super Rugby.
Yeah, it's the same way that the And the Brumbies have got the Canberra Vikings. The Melbourne Rebels have got the. I've gone blank as to what the Melbourne Spirit. No, sorry, it's Perth Spirit, and wasn't it? Wait, there's an NRC team in Melbourne, whereas the Reds have got both a country and a city team, and in Sydney again they have a country and a city team because they're bigger rugby areas. What's the Melbourne? No. I've gone blank. Anyway, it doesn't matter really. But yes, that's how I would do it.
Melbourne Rising.
Melbourne Rising. Thank you. There we go. So yes, that's how you would do. That's how you do it. And then, and which is why I've always thought the Fiji Draw is a fantastic idea, not just for developing local island players for professional rugby, but also for developing the back office structures needed for a Super Rugby franchise in the future.
On that draw, you might know the answer to this. How much of a connection do they have to the Fijian Rugby Union, whatever they call themselves, the actual governing body of Fijian rugby?
So they're paid for by World Rugby.
The Drua.
Pardon?
The Drua?
Yeah, the Drua. So the Drua are paid for by World Rugby, but are associated with the Fiji Rugby Union. One of the reasons they suffered last year when it came to the playoffs was that the playoffs, I think, were a week or two later, and so they lost a lot of their players to the Fiji national team, and hence when it came to finals time, they lost. This time around, it's happened a couple of weeks earlier, so the finals have finished before the November internationals have started, and so they've kept all their players, and hey presto, they've gone through and they've won the competition. Would they have won last year? Probably not, no, because they had an away tie in the finals, and this time they earned themselves a home tie. And as we've seen in a lot of the competitions, that home advantage is key, as we saw in both Mitre 10 Cup competitions as well. So yeah, it's the Fiji Drew are doing fantastically well for the within the NRC, and they're both playing and also say structure-wise as well. I've not heard. Now, let's be honest, I'm not on the ground in Fiji. I'm not going around asking people, but I've not heard of any sort of financial issues around the Fiji Drew, whereas you do hear it around the national teams in the various islands. I'm not saying and we still hear about. We heard stories last year of players either not getting paid or having their kit taken away or having to pay for their own flights. Those things always continue, but I've not heard those stories come out about the Drua. Now, maybe that's because World Rugby is being very careful with the purse strings.
With the purse strings.
And I guess the only problem about this idea that some of the Super Rugby side would have more money is that SANZAR are saying, hey, you need to pay us X amount a year to be allowed a team, which is kind of like, well, okay, but that's not really going to help them, is it? Where they're supposed to, I think it was initially 10 million. And then that got raised to 20 million. And they're like, well, we just don't have 20 million to spend.
Yep.
Which is why there is a good chart, which is why it looks increasingly like we won't have a Pacific Island team in the 2021 expansion.
Unless World Rugby bankrolls them. But that's not likely to happen. Hey, just sort of talking about that. Obviously, we're talking about the talent around the Pacific Islands and how to include it, and it's just like just digressing on that sort of side of things. And JP in the chat room mentioning about a drafting system. That would be interesting if they did implement some sort of drafting system. Obviously, it would be country based, but I could sort of see with say a New Zealand drafting system where under 20s, the team that goes to the under 20s championship, they get drafted into Super Rugby. It'd be great because the Blues would get first pick every year.
Sure, but you are losing that local connection, which is one of the things we've sort of talked about, that tribalism. You can tell me every player that's left Auckland and gone played elsewhere, and is playing for the Highlanders, playing for the. Now I haven't got a clue where they will come from. I don't follow it that close. I don't follow the actual individual players that closely, but. friends and family will turn up to see their players. I mean, one of the things I did last week was I put up a very only a 90-second video from the training session that Waikato did of an interview with Tyler Campbell. And his mum contacted me via Facebook Messenger to say, hey, please can I have a copy of it to hand around family and friends. If you get those sort of connections, it helps people to turn up and stuff. If you're going to start spreading those players around, it's not so. I mean, things that should be done. Next year,
I don't know, Paul. I reckon you're getting that anyway, really. I mean, you're getting a spread of players all over the place. You know, you look at, I mean, it's surprising, you know, you sort of think, you look at the Crusaders, you look at a Canterbury side even, and you sort of think, it's the Canterbury NPC team, a lot of players from Canterbury. Actually, no. Most of the Canterbury team that the Auckland team played against on Saturday and the weekend actually aren't from Christchurch. You take the classic. Everybody would think George Bridge is a great Cantabrian, grew up there, you know, punted down the Avon, and it's like, no, he's from Gisborne. That's, you know, it's just like you look at the midfield that they put out. Both of those players are from Auckland, so it's like, yeah, they're already spreading around anyway. So I think it'd add an interesting element. I mean, the NBA does it, NFL does it. You know, all the college kids coming through that get drafted to the professional league. So and you're still getting tribalism, you're still getting connections and the like. Skype connects you around the world these days, doesn't it? Look at us using it. So, I think it'd add an absolutely interesting element, to the team and squad announcements. Just imagine having a, televised drafting session, and not talking about in the sheepyard.
Fine. Maybe, so one of the things I think they should do prior to next Mitre Cup season that I would suggest is they do sit down and have one of those short interviews, made for about 4 or 5 minutes, with each of the club players, and obviously put those out. But I would send all those videos to the schools that those club players went to let the kids know that basically there are guys from their school in the local team playing Mitre Cup, and I think that would encourage just build those links, show those kids that these guys have come from your place, and help do that kind of stuff.
I think you've actually hit on something there. I mean, like, what's a classic is the 1A final in Auckland, held at Eden Park. In the last couple of years, they've been having it before a Mitre 10 Cup game, and they'll get 10,000 kids turn up to watch a 1A final, and then the Mitre 10 Cup game starts and there's the normal 3,000 people there. And it's just like, as soon as the school 1A final is over, they all stream out the gate. But you're right. If the schools were made aware is that, hey, you've got 3 old boys from your school playing, hey, Onehunga offers coming, or Teleni Sue's coming off the bench for Auckland this weekend, and it's just like his Onehunga old boy, and it's like you get that connection through the schools happening. Obviously, there's St Ken's players, obviously there's Auckland Grammar players, but get that connection happening through the schools. Come watch your old boys play for Auckland,
and also the primary schools as well, and get them to go back there once a season. Go to assembly. Hey everyone, I'm playing. Look, I'm wearing my blue and white or whatever jersey, wherever they are around the country, and just get those links up and just try and build those links, reinforce those links, because so they're
George
there.
Bridge goes back to Gisborne and goes back to his primary schools. Hey boys, I'm playing for Canterbury.
Fine. No, but this was George Bridge probably went to Canterbury High School or whatever.
No.
There's quite a few. Yeah, one of the things that Northland has is that most actually someone who might be on the show. We hope to come on the show tomorrow night. He's an Northland guy. He's in the chat room, is he?
Yep, Steve.
Oh, of course, yeah. He's been making all the comments and asking us all these things. He knows better than we do.
He does. Yes, he does.
Okay, so Steve Harris, who's in the chat room, in the YouTube chat room, does some of the commentary on Radio Sport for the Mitre Cup, and he's a Northland boy. But he came down to Auckland for high school. I think he came down to Auckland, played club rugby in Auckland, and stuff. And part of, people move around to the big cities, and then the regional provinces try and get those guys to come back. So sure, maybe they haven't got a high school to go to locally and say, hey, I'm playing, but they do have a primary school to go to, and say, hey, I'm playing, for example, and that kind of stuff. So I think, strengthening those links, is kind of important. Now, something you don't have a problem with, and neither do I'll be totally honest, is the length of beds.
Yeah. Oh, you're calling me short.
Yes.
I can't believe you're not allowed to be like that in today's modern world. You're not allowed to be mean to me, okay?
Mean to you? I'm not allowed to be mean to you. Oh, dear me. So talking about people being mean and stuff, I put out a video earlier tonight saying bring back respect to rugby. So go have a listen to that, please, and learn the difference between banter and just aggressive comments. Courtney Laws is going to miss out on the first test against South Africa because he slept in a bed that was too short whilst in a hotel travelling around the country.
I saw that, and I can't get my head around it because at the end of the day, I understand how tall he is. He's a lock / blindside flanker, but primarily a lock. And
he's a lock.
But unless he's playing for the Lions, but I don't get it. These guys are staying in international hotels. The international hotels do have larger than normal beds as well. But, okay, so I can still understand that even an international class hotel, the bed is still slightly short. You sleep on an angle, don't you?
Now, to be fair, wow, okay. I hadn't thought about that one.
Right?
Now, to be fair, this wasn't international. This wasn't while he was on international duty.
No,
this happened. This was while he was playing for his club. But when cycling teams travel around the Tour de France, this is something that the Sky Cycling team brought in, is they take their own mattresses with them, because one of the things that's so important is for professional sportsmen is recuperation and rest, right? Recovery. And if you want to know how big recovery is, again, go to DrivingMaul.com and read my interview with Edwards. What's his first name? He used to play for Auckland. Joe Edwards, where we run through what the week in the life of a rugby player is like, and he spends most of it just trying to recover from the game. To be honest, so recovery is vitally important, and obviously sleep and rest is part of that. So they actually take their own mattresses around the Tour de France so that the players don't get back injuries or and get to rest on the same mattress, sleep in the same bed that they're sleeping at home. I'm amazed that rugby teams don't do the same thing. Because, again...
What's the logistics of hauling around a mattress, though, dude?
I say, they do it around France for 3 weeks.
So they get a furniture moving truck and they put all the mattresses in it.
And they stay in a different hotel every night.
Every night, yep. So you've got to have 2 lots of mattresses because you've got to set up one night and the other one's got to be travelling.
No, I think they just have one set and they just, redo it. But, so fine, yes, you need a truck.
Yep.
But still.
But Courtney Laws has found out the hard way he should have his own mattress that he takes with him.
Exactly. I would expect, I'm not sure about this, but I would be very surprised if Sky didn't provide all their cyclists with mattresses to have at home to make sure they all have the exact same mattress throughout. And they're probably sponsored by a mattress company as well. Rugby teams are missing a trick here, that they should be sponsored by a mattress company, and the mattress company should say, part of their adverts are, hey, these guys, our beds are so good, they take them with them on holiday.
Holidays. Yeah, our beds are so good that the cyclists on the Tour de France use them when they're needing their blood transfusions.
Allegedly. Oh, dear me. There we were, hopefully trying to go professional, and suddenly we've just been
nearly
sued
a billionaire,
and
now he's getting
lost
sued.
our entire livelihoods. Thank you. If anyone would like to adopt 2 girls that are now having to sleep under the stars because I just can't afford the litigation. Oh dear. Um, so I find it crazy that
Anyway, so it's
teams are so
interesting.
professional in some ways, but there are some other ways they're just not there anymore. They're not there
They're
yet.
not exactly. There's still a level of to reach in terms of professionalism in rugby, but it's interesting. We're just talking about um, taking your own mattress so that you don't end up in a Courtney Laws scenario, and then we're watching here in Mitre 10 Cup where they're going from flights everywhere to bus travel, which exactly can't be great for your back.
Yeah, but they're not that long distance, to be honest. Most of the trips. Interesting that Thames Valley did have small beds, according to Alan Jones from the and I'll be blunt. I don't listen to anything Alan Jones says. I think he's an absolute prat. So
Well, he did say that as a coach back in 1986, though.
okay, now he's an old fart prat. The
You're getting more legal problems now, dude.
Absolutely. Hey, look, once you've lost everything, there's nothing more to lose. So that's all fun. We're kind of out of time, but very quickly, Adam Ashley Cooper.
Two dads.
Yeah, two dads. What do you think of his selection for Australia?
I think it's a good. To tell you the truth, I think it's a good selection. They just need it. I think we talked about it after the game on Saturday night, and then all the journalists in the paper started talking about exactly what we said. I think Hansen said the same thing we said. The Australians have got the skills to be able to beat the All Blacks. They keep making silly mistakes at the wrong time, and an element of that is experience, obviously. Getting ahead of yourself, maintaining that composure, etc., etc. So to get a two dads into your squad that's got lots of experience, if he's still got it in his legs, you say why not?
Yep. And considering people have already been suggesting that Nonu should come back into the All Blacks for the Rugby World Cup, yeah, absolutely. I think it's a good lot of experience to pick in there. We've also seen, just as another side one, there's been sort of talk about how many players that Steve Hansen has picked and how this is basically, we're having a second string team play Japan, literally, because the first string team is in England, or will be very soon. But Ireland have done a very similar thing when they play Italy. Players like Sexton, etc., are not flying across to Chicago to play in that game. They're sending across a development team, essentially, which makes sense. I mean, look what happened to Ireland in the last Rugby World Cup. They didn't develop any depth. They got about 4 or 5 injuries and got knocked out at the quarterfinal stage by Argentina quite comfortably because they just lost key players and they had no one of any experience to replace them. So Joe Carberry will get a chance to start at 10 against Italy in Chicago, and that'll be a great experience for him.
No, look, and there's you've just hit the nail on the head in terms of experience, players, and squad depth. So again, just to come back to the two dads scenario, it's just like to get them back into the Australian environment. They've probably got a few others that they probably want to, maybe they want to lower that threshold for players overseas that can play for the Wallabies, because I'm sure there's a few more in Europe that they could actually use within the Wallabies environment.
There are, but the way that Genia came back from was it Stade Francais he was playing for? I think from memory.
I think it was a French club.
Anyway, it was a French club, yes. And yeah, his fitness was totally off. I mean, Drew Mitchell, when he came back pre-Rugby World Cup, again, everyone just joked about how fat he was because the levels of fitness in the top 14 are just not there. They play a different style of game. It's much slower. It's much more power orientated. They're nowhere near as fit. And those players are just not conditioned to play the Wallaby way.
So I suppose that's what you've got to address, accept, plan for, is the fact that you know the conditioning that they might come back in. The other thing is that there's nothing stopping those players if they get incentivized with the fact that they might get a Wallaby jersey to say, look, you're going to have X fitness level if you are to come back into the Wallaby squad from an overseas position. Ball's in their court.
True, I think Adam Ashcroft is one of those guys who always comes across as being hyper-professional.
I was just going to say, yep.
And one of those guys who would put in that kind of work and would put himself in that situation. I mean, he's playing for Kobe Steelers. He left Bordeaux in 2017. So he's playing in a faster, less impact-orientated league at the moment. So, and I'm assuming Checker had a quick chat with him when they were in Japan to see how he was. So I wouldn't be surprised if he is. And again, he'll be good for experience, even if not for playing.
Well, exactly. It'll be the experience in the squad. I mean, like, with what we even sort of referred to with Nonu and the Blues sort of thing, even if he doesn't end up playing, they'll be looking for his experience to work with the centres, if not the whole back sort of thing, and provide some insight and upskilling for them. It's funny. Just sorry, I have to say, you won't expect a Drew Mitchell or even a Matt Giteau, not that Matt Giteau would come back, to do any extra training.
No, that's not really that kind of their kind of style, is it?
No.
Anyway, thank you very much, Ashwin, for your time yet again. We will be back, or I will be back tomorrow night with the All Blacks edition on the. Down there is a face for the fortune recording for a link to the All Blacks edition channel. Up there's a link to subscribe to this channel, and there are 2 fantastic videos over there. So join us again 8 p.m. tomorrow night, New Zealand time. Thank you, everybody. Bye.